Hmm. Hi, everyone. So I am Rick Jors from GPMS.world, and today we have Brother John Gilbert with us and his colleague Violetta from the British Isles. So John is coming today with us from CABI, and that acronym stands for Community Assemblies of British Isles. And with this, what I wish to say, it's not just conclusive to the British Isles, that it's worldwide with the great work that they have been doing and creating a micro example of the macro world of GPMS. So this is part of the nuts and bolts of GPMS at having the assemblies, if you will, set up for this new definite world that we are creating with the replacement system of GPMS.world. So with CABI, this is somewhat the structure, if you will, and some of the organization, what comes together with it. So having said this, we are going to uh, have Brother John give us more about CABI and how it works, and of course how it come about. So we'll begin with first question I have, Brother John, is how did it begin with you? How did you awaken? What happened? And what set you into motion, if you will, if I may say, being a founding father, if not the original founding father of CABI. So, what happened, if I may ask?
Hmm. How did I wake up? Well, I literally woke up in the morning with this memory in my head um, and a structure for a different reality which needed to be created. I didn't take much notice of it except to wonder where it actually came from. Um, I wasn't particularly spiritual at the time. I didn't have any training of any sort at the time because I'm mainly an engineer and a medical doctor. So those two things don't really come into the spiritual side of it very much. So it was a little bit of a shock when I woke up that morning and to say yes, there's a job that you have to do because I felt that I was singularly unqualified to do something like that.
Beautiful.
Um,
May I ask, John, may I divinely interrupt? What year was that approximately?
it was 2019,
2019. Thank you. Yeah.
just before all of this kicked off for this COVID nonsense, and it was how can I say this? It was a visual memory that had been planted there, and I had to work towards that visual memory. And
Hmm.
it was something which I had to talk to a couple of other people about um, because I needed to somehow express this, because I have a uniquely visual memory. I remember things happening. I remember sequences of events. I remember all that sort of thing. I don't remember it in words. It all comes in pictures.
Visions, yeah. So it was like a switch had been turned on, and then if I'm perceiving this correctly, it's like a lot of deja vu visions of how you would go forward with it. So what I'm feeling here and what I know is that, it was divinely timed. You already had this scripted within you, like all of us, if you will, on this incredible ascension journey and awakening in the least. So beautiful. Please continue. That's so beautiful.
Um, yeah, I spoke to two other people about it. One wasn't so keen, one was dead keen. Um, but we went ahead and went to a meeting as I was starting to get um, these pictures into some sort of order. We went to a meeting in Truro, which is for those who can't speak Cornish, it's Truro. Um, and met up with a whole load of other people and gave them our idea. And bit by bit, we formed the first community assembly. And once we formed the first community assembly, we then started looking at forming another one and another one until it became the community assembly of Kernow. Kernow is an area of land which is better known for being Cornwall at the moment, but it's really Cornwall, Devon, Somerset, and Dorset over here. And we are hopefully about to actually reignite that territory. Although we knew we had to use the structure as it is at the moment so that we can move ahead without having to create something new for the moment. So we used all the shires, the countries, the counties, and so on. And we used those as areas so that we created regional assemblies in all those areas. So bit by bit, it started spreading out. And
May I ask then? So I believe in an earlier conversation we had perhaps a month ago, you mentioned something about you knew that these were instructions on how to do it, if you will, with your visions. But did you also receive that it was time to gather the ones, if you will? May you share that little bit, what you had received there?
I knew that I had to do it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I knew there was no hanging about with this. It had to be done now. It had to be set up now. What I wasn't given was the actual structure of how it should be done. Just all these assemblies all over the world, and that we had to spread out from a certain area, and that area it kept coming across that Cornwall was the area it had to spread from. But that was the physical side of it. The spiritual side of it, I learned bit by bit. And I knew that what we had to do was both spiritual and physical. So we had to form these assemblies. And because we had to form these assemblies, I concentrated on that at first and didn't concentrate on the spiritual side because I knew nothing about it. I mean, I'm an engineer. I build things. I'm a doctor. I treat illnesses. So the spiritual side of it didn't come at first, and that was partially our downfall because we were attacked mightily by those people who didn't want us to progress any further. They threw everything they could at us. It virtually disintegrated the whole thing. So I restarted it again in 2022. And in 2022, we changed the structure so that we had a more stable structure. And this time, then we brought in, because I had people that were teaching me the spiritual side of it and what I should be looking for and how I should open myself up and teaching me how to do that. And one example of that is Violetta here, who has opened me up to a lot of the teachings that are a lot of the books, a lot of the videos I had to watch, and how to feel in a different way. And so we gathered a team about us who had a lot of different talents. And when I go back to that, I do go back to the Bible, where you got the parable of the talents. We must use our talents for all it's worth.
Gather the skill sets.
We've got
Yes.
to have the skill sets. We've got to have everything going. One of the things I learned was that these shivers that I'm getting now mean that I'm saying the right things.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
truth element. Yeah, I love this. So before we go a little bit further, basically, then, what is the structure of CABI, if you will? And let's begin there. What is the structure? What is the reasoning behind it? What is the foundation? What was instrumental to begin the assemblies? What is it based on? What what law, if you will, is it based on?
It's based on natural law. Keep things as simple as we possibly can. It's based on natural law. Violetta is a constable. She's learnt the constable. She's actually not. She's a dentist, but she's learnt the law side of it. She's learnt to become a constable. She's now learning to become a judicator. Judicators are people who, like a master of ceremony of a court.
Mhm.
They don't judge. They just make sure everything goes smoothly. She's
More or
learning
less a
that now.
mediator,
Yes,
if
that's
we
right.
may.
More a mediator than anything else. Yeah,
Hmm. For sure.
making sure that when two people come into court, that both sides is presented evenly. So if
Hmm.
you've got one person who's quite vociferous and another person who really can't string two sentences together, Violetta's job is to bring out the best in that person who can't really say for themselves.
To
So
balance with equality.
she has to
For
keep a balance. So the community assemblies is um, an upside down organization. The people at the top, the ones that have the say, are the members. Whenever you have what some people would term leaders, they're not, they're servants. Those servants are volunteers, they're not elected. So they have a calling. And when they come into the community assemblies, we need three of those for each community assembly. Because if somebody comes ill, somebody goes away on holiday, you've got to have other people there to keep the whole thing going. Because it has to be going, progressing automatically all the time.
exactly. Yeah. So if I may, then let's use the analogy of the inverted pyramid. So it has, let's say, the leaders of it are actually follow what the people does. So in the present system, worldwide system today, it is with the analogy, it's a pyramid system with the elite on top dictating to all of the people. And so with GPMS, we flip that so that it is the people that are on top saying how everything operates. So this is typical as well with CABI. It's the same structure at giving the full power, if you will, to the people in eradicating the elite ruling class and dictators, that everything is in the best interests of the people overall.
Yeah, it's got to be that way. It's the difficulty is in getting the people to realize that. Um, the first thing is there are an awful lot of online groups who don't meet up anywhere. And the one thing we are not is an online group, although we have online communications through, when we talk about through um, the emails and things like this, we don't really have a, we've got a Telegram group, we've got a Facebook group, but we don't get a lot out of that. People just discuss things on there. The real stuff actually comes through emails, it comes through telephone calls, it comes from going to meetings. And it doesn't work any other way. What we've got doesn't work other than people meeting up and discussing things together
In the physical,
in the
yes.
physical. It has to be that way. Um, yeah, okay.
Works very well for us.
Yeah, it works. It works extremely well. It is hard to maintain because people haven't quite got it yet. When we ask a question of the membership, we expect them to come back and give us an answer. And that doesn't happen to any great extent.
Could you give us an example, just an example of what question that you would ask to the membership that you would anticipate an answer from that apparently seems it's a lot of contemplation and perhaps a delay without an immediate response? Could you just give us an example of a question that you would ask of your membership, if I may?
Okay, well, we've got it going on at the moment that we're forming the territory of Kerno, reforming the territory of Kerno. And because we're reforming the territory of Kerno, we've got to ask each county and region to come in and vote. And because we need to get each one individually to vote to form the whole. So we asked Devon to support the proposal to reform the territory of Kerno, which, Cornwall, Devon, Somerset, Dorset.
So are these actual geographical borders, if you will, that defines the assembly area, if I may say it that way?
These are counties, countries, and shires as of old. But it used to be one at one time. And what we would like to do is actually get rid of the borders, because we've got to start to progress towards the whole. What you call the macro. It's got to become the macro eventually. We have areas that we live in, and if somebody says, where do you live? You have to be able to describe it. But that's not where your thoughts should be. Your thoughts should be to the whole. And not even to this world. We should be going beyond that.
So, if I may, are you dealing with any other proclamations of jurisdiction of that same geographical areas? Is there any contest that is involved with this, or is it just incontestable with what you're doing as you gather the people in these geographical areas? So is it incontestable, or is there any outside jurisdiction that are claiming they are the jurisdiction that's saying, no, you do not geographically have an ownership to this extent of this geographical area, like Cornwall, if you will? Is there any of that opposition that is from what they would call their self an authority or a jurisdiction?
Right. The first thing is we cannot impose our beliefs on anybody else. You can't impose it. So when we talk about a geographical area to define where we are, we're talking about a visual area. So you're talking about a community assembly member. When they're representing Cornwall, they're representing other community assembly members. They're not claiming that Cornwall, the geographical area, has to follow them, because people have the right to say no.
They have the choice, and this is the right of self-determination, the unalienable right. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we have created these areas for ourselves, not for anyone else, and we are not going to impose that on anyone else. This is something that we have chosen to do and a path that we have chosen to follow. So when it comes to interference from others, yes, there is some. There's local councils that try to impose their authority on everyone. And we turn around and say, no, sorry, we don't give our consent to that unless, of course, we think it's worthwhile.
Well, what is CABI offering to the people of your area, if you will, what the existing council structure and form of bureaucracies within governments can't offer? So what does CABI, if you will, offer your general area that the old or current system cannot?
Again, it's the way that information is passed from one to another, so that if somebody, um, if for instance we need a dentist, if for instance we need a herbalist, if for instance we need a homeopath, they're all within CABI. If we need a constable, if we need to call a court, it's all within CABI. So we have a complete system which we use ourselves, which is a system that we want to use. It may not ring true to people who want to exist within the current system because they believe in the current system. It's not for them. CABI is for people who believe in something different. They believe in a different reality. This is a reality that we want. It's not a reality that other people necessarily will want. But we have to have that structure there for ourselves. You can't, we need the system as we can, but we don't have to come out of it completely. We don't have to leave the system completely. If the system starts to fail, then we need to be there to catch the people. If their system starts to try to exert itself on us, we need the we need to have the ability to say, no, sorry, you need to prove your case. And this is
I love, if I may, the impeccable timing of this as well, and especially in the UK. You know, it's I would say at least widespread worldwide what has been occurring there, especially more recently, how it's compressing more and more upon every soul there, becoming more restrictive, more ridiculous. So, you know, what I'm looking at as well is what I call the divine impeccable timing of this structuring that you are doing there to have the people prepared to, let's say, shift from the old into the new. But you are part of that stability to facilitate that so that, you know, when everything implodes, as it's doing very rapidly now, at the same time, you have constructed a venue of support with rationale and reason, and of course, a jurisdiction that is above anything from the legal premises, if you will. So, this is the lawful, simplified construct and gathering of the people, hence the assemblies, I would say, if you would agree with that.
yes, it is. It has to be a support for people. It has to be. We have to be able to turn around to the existing. We call them the Bash Street kids because if you ever looked at a picture of the Bash Street kids, you see just how ridiculous they are. But we just don't believe in any of the laws and legislations that they put out. In fact, you have to consent to them to make them a law, and if you don't consent, they're not your law; they're someone else's, and you cannot impose that on anyone. So it has to be the system has to be both spiritual and physical. We have to be able to look after our own people. If anybody should be, if the old system should think that somebody should do something because they feel that they should do it and they don't want to do it, we have to be able to turn around and say, no, you can't do that. So there are numbers. You have to gain numbers as well. There is an old system, and again, we look a long way back sometimes. There is an old system which is called the 100, 300, 600. I don't know whether you've heard of that, but
No, I haven't.
No, okay. Well, if you have 100 people, the phrase goes standing shoulder to shoulder. In other words, we're standing together. And it comes from the times when the armies were raised from different areas, and If you put together 100 shield maidens and soldiers together, and you could supply that, you had certain privileges. So you had an area of the your own assemblies, your own area. You had some sort of autonomy. When you got to 300, it became a jurisdiction. So then you could have your own courts. So if you could supply 300 men, you could now have your own courts in exchange for that. If you had 600 men and women standing together, then you have to have something more than just a jurisdiction. So it becomes a territory.
So who, if you will, so this was generally accepted, if you will, in the UK. So by the populace of the British Isles, then it was accepted, an agreement by everyone, if you will, if you had 100 and when you had 300, that you gained jurisdiction, if you will. But what I'm looking at this, did it organically become accepted, or was there any treaty or agreement that was formulated to substantiate this as a jurisdiction of law, or was it just a gentleman's agreement or an intrinsic knowing and acceptance that you could construct jurisdictions in this manner by 100, 300, 600?
Okay, this came
Or
from
was it law of the land, if you will? Thank you.
it came from Alfred the Great, who travelled himself extensively, who was again a very spiritual, very religious, whichever one you call it. I suppose religious in those days, but I don't like the word religious. He was a very spiritual man. He wanted to look after his people. He felt that the people should have a say. So he formalized the system of 100 to 300, 600, which has been hidden pretty much ever since. That was something he a lot of his laws and how people should act together was gained from travels all over the world, or all over his world at that time. It wasn't just England or the British Isles. He travelled on the continent as well. And he brought all these systems back with him. So although there was a sort of formality there before, or a sort of system there before, he formalized it and said, yes, this is how we're going to do things. So we've adapted that. We've adapted the system of the Stanary Parliament. We didn't like the word Parliament. We didn't like the fact that they call them the 24. The 24 stanators at that time were elected or appointed. So we didn't like the fact that there were elections, because in elections can come deceit. This has been the problem that we've had ever since, is that people, have an election, they get into power, and at that point that they get into power, they're really only out for themselves, not for anybody else. The thing with having volunteers is that if the volunteer isn't very good for the job, they can be given something else to do, because the people have the power. So you're not somebody who's stuck in that particular job for 4 or 5 years. They can be there for just a few months. It doesn't look right for them, so they can move on to another job, as long as they're serving mankind. It's a system that we're now instigating. So Cornwall, for instance, has 300 people, over 300 people standing shoulder to shoulder. 300 people plus who can meet up, discuss matters, talk to people. We're now moving towards that in Devon, the next area up, and we're now voting on that in Somerset, the next area up. So we're starting to spread out from that. But we must never lose sight of the spiritual side of what we're doing. It has to be both physical and spiritual together. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Exactly. Yeah, beautiful. So the full authority again is with the people, no certain individuals. It's the people as a whole, as a consensus, more or less, if we can say. So
Yes.
this is all of the people. If we go back to Alfred the Great, if you will, just for a moment, uh, at that time, then it was the authority of the people in the geographical area, if you will. So it was not like the old serfdom or the feudal system then. So with this, I believe perhaps this originated. My history is not great with Alfred the Great at this moment, but then did this originate more in the northern parts of the British Isles, up in Scotland? Was it where was the origins of this that it was accepted that the people themselves, rather than a monarchy or a ruler, was the authority?
There was an area known at that time as Mercia, and Mercia was, if you like, in the middle of the British Isles. By the way, we
Excellent.
never call it UK.
Hmm.
UK is a fictitious corporation, and they've instilled that onto us. So we never call it that. It's always called either the British Isles or whatever. If it's a territory, then we name that territory. Um, the um, the thing with that was that it started in the middle of the country and spread out. Now, where we are used to be Dumnonia. Dumnonia was probably about a third of the British Isles, all told, and in the southern area, and went from all the way over in the west, all the way over to the east of the country. It covered all of it. There was no, when it was Dumnonia, there was no real separation there. There was no, oh, this is Wales, this is,
Hmm.
this is Wessex, this is. It didn't happen that way. It became a complete. It was tribal, but it was tribes cooperating.
Yes, recognizing and respecting each other with a mutual trust,
Yeah.
if you will, and that mutual respect. Yeah, beautiful. Um, so with this, so we covered, how CABI came about with your what I call the divine guidance, with the divine instructions, how to keep expanding and gathering ones. So you have what you feel is a concrete structure for ones to assemble within. The structure of it works efficiently based on natural law of simply do no harm. And again, what you offer, if you will, to the people is I don't feel to say an alternative to the current system. I'd like to say an evolved choice than the current system. And this is also widening out, as I mentioned before. I consider CABI the nuts and bolts and micro examples of what we are doing with GPMS.world as it evolves forward. So you have the skill sets, as you said, for the communities, which is very important to support uh, all endeavors within a community and all necessities or essentials, if you will, that are required for a social community to function at its full capacity and to evolve and advance rapidly. And with this, you still use the current uh, monetary system in your area. Have you taken any steps towards an alternative currency for the assemblies. Has there been any action or consideration taken towards that respect?
There are people who are looking into it. There are certain currencies that are trying to re-establish themselves at the moment, or establish themselves at the moment. I don't personally, I don't see the need yet to go down that route, because at the moment the old system is still hanging together, just about. They're trying to do away with the old system. They're trying to do away with money and just go everything digital. Um, and we're seeing resistance to that. If you like, here in Cornwall, when I go to shops here in Cornwall, there are very few aisles left now who are for card only. They can have cash and card now. It was they did in one place that I normally go to. They closed down all the aisles and said, well, apart from one, and one aisle was kept open for cash and card, and the rest were card only. That's now reversed. So they've got one now aisle, two aisles now, which are card only, and they're usually empty because everybody is actually now using cash. Now, you see people going to the cash machine, and I do it myself. They draw out cash, they go into the shop, and they pay in cash.
Mm-hmm.
Seems ridiculous because you're putting a card into a machine and drawing the money out, but it safeguards the use of cash. If they try to stop the use of cash, then big businesses themselves will say, well, look, most of our stuff is done in cash, or you're going to take away a third of our earnings if you take away cash. They're going to be worried about it. So at the moment, I can't see that actually happening. I don't feel it's happening. And I feel the resistance to it is again, the people speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's doing it in all little small ways. It's not just what CABI is doing. You know, people in the street are actually starting to hit back as well and say, look, I don't want to do this. And all we're trying to do is to encourage that to happen. I don't think money itself will be needed in the future.
Absolutely agree. And yes, and this also is where we're all going towards. So by CABI connecting with GPMS, and what we are doing with GPMS is we make money abundant, unlimited, so that we get, let's say, the worldwide slate cleared, and the appropriation of wealth is distributed equally. Then very quickly humanity knows they do not need money at all. It becomes a hindrance. But in this very time, the point, what you touched on, the importance of cash, totally agree. And for what I do, I insist on that regularly, for ones to keep using the cash, but also to have cash out on hand, if you will. And to get right to the point, the reasoning with this, in any country worldwide, you have governments that control the internet and the servers of these individual countries. Now, when you have all of the money digital that resides on an internet or a digital account that the governments actually control, then everyone is at the mercy of that internet. And if, let's say, the government's got real worried and afraid and nasty, if they cut down that internet or shut it off or restrict and limit all bank accounts, then you are at the full mercy of what the government says, if you will. However, by many having physical cash out, it is going to work. And rather than gold or silver or other things of barter, it doesn't work very well. But when you have the cash, it has the denomination written on it. And at any time of any chaos, if you will, it retains its value. If you have a 10-pound note, it is 10 pound. But if you have no financial market dictating the price of gold at any given time, gold is worthless, if you will, because there is no value put upon it that can be used as a measure of trade or an exchange of trade. So, in those cases, again, it will be the physical cash that is king and always, but also to retain the sovereignty of all individuals and their digni- dignified value. The closest thing to that is the physical cash. So I absolutely fully agree. And once again, emphasize the importance of keeping the cash in the society. And as we've seen, the measures worldwide to go to a cashless society. And it's all about control again. As I said, with a flick of a switch, if the internet is shut down in, let's say, the British Isles, no one's got access to money or even cryptocurrency or even blockchain currency because it all resides on an internet that the people do not own nor control. This is the biggest threat, if you will, to the populace worldwide, where you have, again, the puppet masters controlling this very vital, important infrastructure for humanity, which is the internet. So, just before we move on with this, this is why one of the important um, constructs of GPMS is the people taking the lawful, rightful ownership and control of this public infrastructure of the internet worldwide to ensure that humanity are not at the mercy of a few. So beautiful. I love it. So what else would you wish to share? You know, you have what I loved is you have a next brought together uh, the, let's say, the logical reasoning rationale of the assemblies and combined it with the spiritual, with the divine knowing to make it, let's say, more absolute and complete as you evolve it forward. Are there any other important particulars or specifics of the CABI structure and gathering of the people that you would wish to identify or elaborate on at this time?
One of the noticeable things about CABI is that people find each other, and it's a matter.
Community.
It is, yeah. We're coming together. Violetta is Bulgarian. She came out with 15 years. Yeah, 15 years ago. And although we didn't, a lot of us didn't actually know that we had to be in a certain area at a certain time, we started to go that way. I've got people here in Cornwall now. We've probably got the biggest populace of mixed races and mixed peoples down here, because we have people from all over the British Isles. We've got people from the Americas, Australians, New Zealanders, people from Norway, Sweden, Japan. We've got,
Beautiful.
yeah, they've started to coalesce into what we're doing, but it's a feeling more than anything. We don't normally advertise anywhere. We don't like advertising. We have done a little bit of it, but when we advertise, we seem to get people who think we're an online structure. And by joining us, they're going to get all this information coming to them. You know, they're going to have a chat room and things like this. They don't. We don't do things that way. So when people find us, like ourselves, we've found an affinity between us all. And it's not just that you like what we're doing, we like what you're doing. It's a case of, oh, hold on a minute, we could use that. And it's this non-ego driven reality that we are creating. I use the word reality because to me, we are creating something which is real, and it's something which serves all, not just
It's righteous.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And it involves to the fullest the public interest. So you are in the British Isles with the assembly, let's say Cornwall, but also, as you mentioned, the community assemblies that are connected to you are also worldwide, which other assemblies which are following the same construct as you, but are also interconnected as a network. So you have spread out more worldwide as well as a network. Um, would you just wish to elaborate on some other areas around the globe, some nations, some countries, but I mean areas, geographical areas that you are connected to and that have begun to also create their assemblies. And one of the reasonings for this is GPMS is growing extensively worldwide, as well with many community members also looking for places to gather, to come together with like-minded and what have you, everything that facilitates the whole and the evolution we are currently in to create this new world. So, what other areas are you have your organized structure and, let's say, the prototype of the new reality as the assembly prototypes the structures? What other areas worldwide?
To start with, we don't dictate anything. So we have what we call a framework of responsibilities and a framework of the way that we want other people to live. But from that framework, they take what they need. They don't need to take everything. As long as they abide by natural law, as long as they have this this knowledge that we have that all that we're doing at the moment is divinely inspired. Everything we do has to be we have to all come together and work together, but not exactly in the same way. You don't have to follow a set of rules. So let's say we go to America now, and America are building a system very loosely on ours, but they've adapted it for life in America. With Canada, they're doing the same thing. In British Columbia, they're building a system over there which suits them, but using the framework that we've developed. But they may be using different parts of the framework to America. But America now and Canada are now talking together. So they're following, yeah. So they're starting to share things. Whenever we find something new, if, for instance, we've found up in the Shetlands that they have a slightly different perspective on things up there, because the Shetlands are not actually part of Scotland. Even though people think it is, it's not. So they have a unique perspective on things, and we are picking up tidbits and bits and pieces of information from them that we can use and adapt. We can get it from anywhere. And as long as we still remain flexible and true to what we believe, which is all of this was divinely inspired, and all of this is for mankind. We've got to always keep mankind at the top of the tree.
Mm-hmm. And bring everything together, comprise all of the valuables for the full public interest. And this is part of the work you are doing, we are doing as well. We're gathering all of the values that substantiate the new world. There's a lot of these things we don't need, and we already know that, so those are thrown by the wayside. But there are little springboards that we can use to affect the whole. Brother Lee, if I may, could you just set in for a moment? I got to go to the washroom. But before that, what we love, what we put on our GPMS website was what I call the best organization and construction of the natural law. So by voluntary association, written by Mark Horn, one of your assembly members, describing natural law, which is so important with the structure of CABI and also with GPMS, and also the foundation for this new world, this replacement system that the whole socio-economic arena is being changed. So, Brother Lee, if you may just wish to come in for a moment, that would be great. I'll be right back. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much, John, and Violetta. Let's just say, I don't know how much to extrapolate on this currently, because I think what you've been doing is absolutely awesome. And I can show affinity to what it is that happened to you in 2019. Brother Rick and I both powered up in 2019 too, relatively. And what you've been doing there is very kin to what I've been doing. We're not going to talk about levels per se, but let's just say on the planetary level, and the integrity and the virtues and the consciousness, which is what you're representing, the consciousness, the values of the system, the integrity, honor, virtue, and all of the equality, the freedom of choice, the free will within do no harm, is fundamentally in GPMS on the creational level. And so all of the things that you've been talking about, all of the progress that you've been making, all of these are so in alignment with what we've been doing, Rick and I, and others on the, let's say, energetic levels behind the scenes. And so I could say a lot more, but I really don't wish to. I think that this is what you've put out with Brother Rick here has been fabulous to listen to. And it's rapid now. I'm going to say this: it's rapid. The alignments and the magnetism, the love, is rapid, and the old system is crumbling to the degree that many can't see currently. And these are what you've been doing fundamentally is the construct of GPMS and the people's assemblies that will be the ones that look, I call administrations for different areas, and they will just expand and become fundamental to the new world, as Rick would say it, top down, and with the administrators right at the bottom supplying everything the people need, frictionless, and it's very, very close. So, brother, I don't wish to say too much because it would take it too far, and I really, really don't wish to take this too far currently, unless you feel we need to go there.
I just want to come in on one thing a minute. Of course, we talked about Mark Horn there, and what he's written up. Mark Horn runs the Peacekeepers. It's a completely separate organization to ourselves, but we believe in certain fundamentals between us, and therefore he has become a member of the community assemblies and therefore sees everything that we do. We use his training to train our peacekeepers and peace constables within the organization itself. So there is an overlap there. So he didn't come in and do this just from the point of view of CABI. He came in from the point of view of his own organization and what he is doing within a system which I find most unfair, but he's working within that system. And all power to his elbow, because he is doing what a lot of us wouldn't even dare to do, which is go into their own courts and challenge them. So this is just other people coming together with us to strengthen what we're doing, but there is no ownership there.
Let's say there's a divine element here that is unseen and would be classed as abstract, yet it is fundamental and it is undeniable. And the writings that Mark put together I reviewed and with Brother Rick, and they are substantial and they are watertight. They are loophole free for the level that is required here. And therefore they were imported almost directly to almost instantly to the GPMS website, because there's only room for expansion within them, or actually focus, but they are let's just call it watertight, especially for the old system, with the way it's written, and they are divinely inspired. The old system has got nowhere to hide within them, and it's got nowhere to hide without them either. I'll leave it at that. So he's working on a divine level as well, for the task that he's doing and the role that he's playing. It is evident by his words.
I agree with that, definitely. We've also got other people that are doing similar things with us as well. And again, it's all volunteering for mankind. I will say for mankind for the moment, but in actual fact, this goes higher than that. And what we're working for is something very, very special. It's something which I was quite happy to. One of the problems that we've had was that we had. I knew we needed a website which was a very expensive website to put together for all that we wanted. And money, I raised the money somehow, and it formed the website. Money doesn't matter anymore. Money isn't what we are. It's not our currency anymore. Our currency is kindred spirit, all from heart.
Yeah, it's fundamental. I'm not going to say too much again, but I've just written the tome, if you will, for all of this, explaining and describing it all. It's stored for when it's needed, if it's needed. But it outlines exactly what's happened and exactly let's just say it's all there, brother. Everything that is needed is ready, in place, fundamentally now for everything to shift. It just is divine timing.
Mm-hmm. May I, at this point,
do we want him in, Lee, or shall we just keep him on the background there a minute?
It's whether or not I stay, brother.
Oh, no, the more the merrier, as we said. But my next question is: you mentioned constables, so you have your community, if you will, and I keep putting the geographical area that you're in. You know, it's I look at that as your community. But I hear you mention policing and constables. Now, when you mention that with your area, what my question is, does this mean that you have the full jurisdiction over your geographical area? And when I say jurisdiction, meaning that you have your own policing, your own constables, that the outside authorities, and I got these squiggly things, jurisdiction cannot come in or nor compromise your policing or your constable abilities. Is that a reasonable assumption, or may you elaborate on how this actually works? Is it the community in the geographical area? Is it only the CABI members that enjoy uh, the absence of the outside said jurisdictions, or is it the whole area? Does everyone in your geographical area enjoy the higher natural law policed only from the foundation of natural law? Does
No,
that
it's
make
not.
sense?
It's not. Yeah, it does. It's not everyone in our geographical area, because not everyone believes what we believe. So we can, again, going back to the basics again, we cannot impose our will on other people. So this applies, and it doesn't actually apply to only CABI members, because within CABI members themselves, they have the right to choose the way that they go forward. So, for instance, if we voted, which we've just voted for the formation of the territory of Kurno. Those who voted in favour of it will become part of the territory of Kurno. Very few people voted against it. I think in Devon and Cornwall there was only 2 people that actually voted against, 3 people that voted against it in Devon and Cornwall. The thing with that was that those 3 people didn't want to become part of it, so there's no point in us trying to force them to become part of it. They had a vote, they had the right to their say. At some time in the future, they may change their minds and take part in the territory of Kurno. But the territory of Kurno is specifically for those people who wanted it. When it comes to the benefits of being in the territory of Kurno, and there will be quite a few benefits, because we now have New Zealand, who are producing a trust, which is God's trust, which proves that each person is in charge of a certain amount by through God's will. And so it's a trust which we don't think can be broken, because in order to do it, God would have to be brought into court. Not only would it have to be brought into court, but the court would then have to prove that God didn't exist. They're bringing him into court, and no, he doesn't exist. It's an anomaly. It just can't work. So we believe it's unbreakable. But he's now produced one for the whole of CABI. He's actually produced it for the Assemblies of the World, which is where all the other communities, well, not all of the other communities, some don't want to declare themselves yet, so, but those that do can communicate through that. What we have to look at on all of this is how we interpret what we're doing. This is purely and simply for people to have some sort of security from the current system, so that they can be presented with this, so that they don't have to be, if the police look at our cars, they will see the name on the documents as trustee, and then the name of the trust itself. They don't see our names, and if they don't see our names, if they try to impose some sort of fine on us, which hasn't done harm to anyone else, if they try to impose some sort of fine on us, they haven't got a name. There's no name by that. So, and in truth, really, my car is Violetta's car, is her car, is my car, and we're talking about all of us can share at any time. So they've got a little bit of a problem there, but it's how we work. And anything that we do because it's a worldwide thing, anything that somebody else does, they share with us. We share everything that we do with them. Rick, I think you get our weekly updates, don't you?
No,
Oh, you don't get them. Does
not
Lee?
yet.
Oh, no. Who was it that actually joined? One of you actually joined us.
Mike,
Somebody who was living over
Mike.
here, I think. Mike.
Michael. I think it was
Mike.
Michael that said he would do that. Yes.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, he is
Yes.
getting our weekly updates, and our weekly updates are a sort of a roundup of all the knowledge and all of the things that we are picking up. And
Can I jump in a second, John, with this? Because what you're doing is you've set up a system against the legal system, which is negating and null and voiding the legal system.
yes,
Now, beautiful. And these trusts that you're talking about per son are designed to be represented in their court systems. So it's setting up a barrier for their court systems and their legal systems to impose upon you. And
yes,
I'd like to take this into GPMS and explain how that works on the GPMS level. Where you've got the per son, we've got the soul, and each soul is unlimited in value because they are a son of God or a daughter of God, and therefore they are part ownership and shareholder of everything. So what you're doing is what you've done, and what many have done, is set up a system against the legal system. But what GPMS does is it null and voids the legal system because it implements do no harm, and the legal system at its basis foundation causes extreme harm and separation. It goes against divine law. So, in the unity of these assemblies and in the unity of the people, it null and voids what you have been constructing to fight against, and it's no longer there. So, all of these other existing trusts and all of the other implementations you've got as stopping their system fall and collapse. And this is on the collection of the consents of GPMS. So it takes what you've been beautifully doing and puts it together and then completely null and voids their system without trying to neutralize it in their courts or take it out of their jurisdiction. And this would, I would say that your 100, 300, 600 was actually 369, but changed. And 900 is the planet. So the 900 together, or in this would be a majority of shoulder to shoulder. I've been utilizing this through Uganda, through many, where we walk shoulder to shoulder equally. And that's a fundamental on this divine scale, is the equality of each to be recognized. And when each stands shoulder to shoulder in recognition of their value, their God-given value, then the world becomes theirs. And this is the implementation of the shareholder status on the large scale. So this is the macro version, and what you're beautifully describing is how the micro version is becoming it. So thank you so much for all the efforts, and any that see this and any that are involved in this. I trust that what I've just outlined shows how this becomes that on a global scale for all of the children, all of the souls, all of the persons on the planetary, on the collective scale.
Yeah, excellent, brother. So, typically there is no argument against the do no harm, and there cannot be any substantiation of a contest towards that. There is no merit within it. So many of these legal words and lawful words we can use to describe it. But again, essentially, there is no contest by the old system. It is now null and void. It's just the realization by the majority that it is, which is what GPMS is doing, and it doesn't exist any longer. So again, with this, it's all designed so divinely beautiful. It is totally consistent and concrete in its structure of what we are all doing together, what you are doing with GPMS, and as you said, with peacekeepers, that with Mark Horn, I believe in the near future it may be great if we speak with him as well, because what we're doing is bringing all of the dynamics together to solidify it for the foundation of the new world as well. And as you I totally concur with. We are gathering the skill sets, and here's 4 of us here today, but there's many other brothers and sisters we are bringing all together as the concrete uh, team, if you will, that facilitates this new world that is incontestable to the old system. And again, what we love to say, what we are doing is assimilating, this old world and bringing it to the new. So for all of the people worldwide, anyone that watches this, again, what you are witnessing with what Brother John and Sister Violetta and Brother Lee and everything we're discussing here is that foundation being shared with you all and emphasized that it's very real. It's already here. And yes, you may have some particular little contests, but in reality, everything we are all doing as a whole is incontestable and inevitable. Um, One thing you said, John, it says you are not promoting um, uh, what you are doing with the assemblies. My question with that is then you are in New Zealand, connections, um, US and Canada. So, what is word just traveling, word of mouth, as one's having a choice? That here is the information, I believe, is how you said it. You're not promoting it. However, there are ones that are beginning more so to identify with your information. Would that be the better way to say it?
Yeah, it's we don't want to advertise it at all because the people who find their way in are the ones worth having. They are the ones who found us for a reason. But it doesn't stop other people doing it, and other people have been talking about us, other people have been circulating the information. I've done quite a few interviews now, and that has actually gone out there as well. But I will do interviews on all sorts of different subjects, not just CABI. But other people have done it as well. But by and large, the people that needed to come in found their way in. So they knew we were there in the first place, in the same way that people know that you're there. And we found out that we knew that you were there. It's a matter of things being passed to and from. So
Yes.
we are being guided towards each other. This coming together that they're trying to construct at the moment by putting, if you like, false assemblies, false
Replica. Replica.
yeah, replicas, replicas of what we're doing, but they're to make money from, and that is causing a slow up at the moment of what we're all doing. But the thing with it is that more and more people are getting the message and getting the message that I got initially,
Yeah.
which
Start
is
slow.
that we need to start slow, keep going,
Start slower,
don't stop.
brother. Start
Yeah.
slower. It's actually on the metaphysics level. It's a balancing. It's actually it's all perfectly timed, and everything's perfectly timed. It's fascinating, and it gets very, very intricate, and it looks like it's weird, but it's not a slow up. It's actually just perfectly timed. And what I would put into what we're discussing here is from when we started GPMS, we didn't put any of the foundation, the fundamental stuff that you've got within yours, of the rules of the what the people will do and how they will foment and formulate and practice and install or instill or work with what they would do on the ground. We didn't put any of that in GPMS at all because we weren't going to define the details for anybody. We weren't going to limit what people did. We were going to unlimit what they could do it in but we weren't going to limit how they did it. And this is why it's so beautiful to watch, to listen to what you're saying about how ones are taking and they're giving it the ways they want to for those areas, but they're all in alignment with one whole. And this is why we would say to any, I mean, I don't, I would suggest to anybody that's involved with CABI to look at this and to listen to what we've been saying. And this is fundamentally the new world. This is the fundamentals for heaven. This is the fundamentals for abundance and freedom and all of the words that are great for all the souls here. And this is the end of those that aren't necessarily here to benevolently assist the souls that are here. So we're right on that cusp of the change, and all of the work that you've been doing and all of the groups and the assemblies will become the administrations. The fundamentals that you've installed will become the basics, the foundations of integrity, the foundations of good action, the foundations of do unto others as you would have them do to you. They are instilled on a fundamentally metaphysics level, and they're instilled into the consciousness, and they'll be instilled through word of mouth and actions. And this is what you've been walking, brother. And the teams that are joining you are wishing to do this because morality is rising back up. There's a removal of the density. I'm not going to go into too much of this, but there's a removal of the fear that was holding the morality down, and that which was immoral is going to be released and shed very, very quickly. And that's the ones you're finding that are coming to you are the ones that can see morality above the immorality. And that's the inevitability of all of this divine harmonics or harmony replacing disharmony, brother. So again, much, much love to all of you that have been walking this path that wasn't easy, but it was righteous and it was necessary, and it didn't matter what stood in the way. It wasn't going to stand in the way. It was just going to cause an obstacle. But that was divinely timed too, for however it all works. So it's incredible. I am extremely blessed to be here doing this as well. So without getting tears in my eyes, I'll stop currently.
We've been, if I may, we've been here mostly masculine. Having said this, Sister Violetta, is there anything that you would wish to share with any of your views or any aspects that we have not covered? Because you've been there very observant and compiling everything, and I feel that you do have at least something to contribute. So having said this, does it resonate with you to oblige us with perhaps something to add in here? And before you do, what I need to say to all, that the divine feminine and where we are going is the equality within the feminine and the masculine in the new world. And with this, what it does mean and what we're seeing is more feminine are taking these higher roles at speaking out and sharing from their equal perspective as well. So having said that, is there anything you wish to contribute, Sister Violetta? Thank you.
I just want to share that since I met John and joined CABI, my life changed completely. And it was like I found my purpose, and that makes me feel amazing. I know that there is a certain reason why I'm here, and I finally found it, which makes me ecstatic. And for that reason, being in CABI is complete honor. And there's maybe something John missed mentioning something, that we have so-called Aurora Network, in CABI, and that is a network of people with high frequencies which are willing to join together to raise the frequency of the humanity. And this is something that we regularly do. We do group meditations every Monday. Some of us does the meditation even more often. And so we are trying to manifest how we would like to see our future, or not our future, it's correctly to say our reality. So completely consciously, all of us are manifesting the reality we wish to live in. So that is probably the spiritual side of CABI, which he didn't mention.
How many are involved in that currently, Violetta?
In Aurora Network.
In the Aurora?
Probably about 1,700, I think, by now. We have two lists. And
I wonder whether or not the 20 that you referred to yesterday with iBrother are currently in that network. If you know what, yeah, I'm talking to Brother Rick. The 20 that you were saying were missing, and I said are possibly not needed, are within this network already within CABI. I wonder whether that's the case.
No, at least
Not
no,
quite.
not all of them. But
Okay.
I do suspect, yeah, that
There's links. There's links, Violetta, and there's links to a lot of what we do, which we're not going to bring into this. But inside your spiritual communities, there will be others that are involved with us as well, but they may not know it yet, oblivious. Inside a lot of this, many are oblivious to what they do on the higher levels, but they are oblivious to what they are doing on the levels here, and it's all beautiful.
A lot of what we do, if you will, as well, is transcribe the abstract into the physical, into the written as well. So part of doing that. And as we know, it's prevalent throughout the spiritual community that the abstract is becoming more and more written as the instruction and the guidance for the evolution of humanity in this time, and of course into the super consciousness. And this is how the consciousness, one way, evolves with it. So it's beautiful. Having said this, is there anything else, Violetta, that you would wish to share, or Brother John, on this at this time?
Yeah, I want to say that also training for peacekeeper and after that for peace constable is something which I'm very excited about. For me, natural law makes a lot of sense, completely answers all of my questions. So this is one of my passions. And I would encourage everyone to look into the Peacekeepers course and maybe join, or as long as they feel attracted to it. For me personally, it was very, very fulfilling experience. I'm still in a process of learning. I know nothing, but I'm willing to learn and being useful in some way for everyone and for myself.
Absolutely. And that's how it begins, being open, being receptive for it, as well as all of us, and daily and even in the moment. That's why we are open, and so important to have that, to have all the instruction and information to go forward. So with this, what I wish to say, any GPMS members we have in the British Isles, if you will, if you wish to, if you're in this general area, if you wish to be part of the community, because also what is occurring organically again is the administration hubs that are part of GPMS in the future. I now identify CABI as one of these hubs at gathering the skill sets to fulfill the all with GPMS.world. But so when we look at, my perspective of CABI now is the great example of the structure for the new replacement system already being here, but not only in the British Isles. In is it Australialis, Terra Australialis, if that's the proper name, I forget, but in New Zealand and other areas. So what we are also seeing at this time is the other assemblies that you have actually initiated with that are already popping up. Canada, United States, British Isles, New Zealand. So it's all encompassing, meaning that it's already there. It's already being constructed organically as we go forward. So what I suggest for any GPMS members, if it resonates with you, to learn more, at least, and to be part of these assemblies and support these assemblies as well, because these are what I would say the prototypes of the administration hubs at making GPMS work efficiently, but also proficiently. So it's beautiful. So with that, anything to add, John, or anyone else before we wrap this up?
No,
Just a couple of things quickly on this as well with GPMS. It's not a fixed name. The people haven't chosen it yet. So CABI as well is not a fixed name. It's a conceptual name. So they are interchangeable. They're not one. This is the thing about it. So what Brother Rick is saying, for CABI, GPMS is CABI, and for GPMS, CABI, they're interchangeable. All it needs is the unity between the two. And if you're in CABI, it would be a good idea to have a look at GPMS. And if you're in GPMS, it would be a good idea to have a look at CABI for the administrations. But don't think if you're in CABI, you don't want this because it's different. It's not. This is the whole. And if you're in GPMS, don't think CABI is less. It's not. It's the creation of the whole. So I'd like to link the two together fundamentally and talk to these as if they are the same. They are. They're just working under different. You use the word jurisdictions, John. Okay, we use that word if we must. But different jurisdictions currently, but they are one and the same thing. They are interchangeable. So each involved with each, look to each to assist each. And that's the unity. The fundamentals are within both for the new world. So I'll add that too. Over to you, John.
One thing that I think that's worth noting is that when we produce things like trusts and peacekeepers, peace constables, and courts, it is there to take the fear away from people so that they have redress of complaint if needs be. And we don't need it for ourselves because none of this system is needed for us because we all abide by natural law. So it is to help people in the transition period. I don't think we will ever need peace constables in the future, but we do need them now.
Perfect. Transitional. All of it's transitional. Like we don't need money in the future, but we do need it now. So let's utilize it abundantly. So everybody can realize how futile it was to use it. But why not have some fun with it in the meantime? Or in the interim. I don't want to call it meantime. Because it's owned by the people and the people will be freed and they'll free themselves by choice because each is their own savior. etc., etc. Transitionally, there's a little bit to go, but that's only a hop, skip, and a jump away. Is there anything else that we'd
Well,
like to, brother? Should we call this one? Call it to an end. It's been about an hour and a half. I think 90 minutes on this is perfect. Is there anything else you can think to add? Or John, have you got anything you would like, or Violetta? I think we've covered. I think you've
Oh,
covered actually, you guys, and a little bit at the end with everything that's necessary. I love those pin drops.
I don't think there's anything more to add to the moment.
Absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to wish everybody that watches this to have a look into it, to join up, to unite. As I said, interchangeability. This is inevitable. It is also imminent. There is nothing stopping this, and the old system is about to go null and void. Let's just call it that without giving it too much more. And the sons and daughters of creation are about to reclaim their birthrights. Much love, light, and gratitude to everybody. And I'll leave it over to you.
love, light, and gratitude to everyone. And thank you so much, Violetta and Brother John as well, Sister Violetta and Brother Lee. And yeah, we'll call it a wrap, I believe.